Good morning, everyone. We're beginning. We're continuing, resuming the adventures of Yaakov and Esav, the classic, monumental 2,000 round bout between the Jews and the whole rest of the world. Here's a very interesting thing. I mean, history is a very amazing topic. You know, it has world history. There's even history like just English history or European history, Spanish history. History is very amazing, and history is very complicated. Very complicated, and there's even different opinions about what exactly happened and what are the motivations. Who exactly, started the 100 Years War and the 1,000 Years War and this war and Genghis Khan, all these interactions and actions, and novels have been written about the different seasons and different wars and different periods. We're talking billions and billions of people interacting with each other in the course of world history, and inventions being made, and nations falling. And who would dream that this whole entire business, billions of people interacting one with the other for 5,000 years, was only for the Jews? It's like taking the whole ocean with all these, fish and squids and the whales and all sorts of, things that are all sorts of weird creatures that are, more than a mile underneath, and, where it's all dark. There's billions, trillions and trillions of fish and interacting. And it's only because of one, goldfish. The whole thing was just because of one tuna fish. The whole thing was just because of him. So that there would exist, this one type of sardine. The whole thing, it makes no sense. But strangely enough, we see that there's this sort of common theme, very quiet in the background. There's this like million-piece orchestra, and there's this little sort of flute playing in the background all the time, and that's the Jews. And the Jews they're always here. They just always seem to be here. Since the Abraham, which was like 4,000, I don't know, years ago, 4,000 years ago. No, since Abraham, which was like, 4,000 years ago, as the Jews have been here. And very surprising, right? The world is 5,700, whatever years old, and Abraham counted about the year 2000. So he was like, 3,800 years ago, Abraham. So since that time, the Jews have always been here. And they've always been a tremendous minority. But nevertheless, they've remained. And all these other empires and philosophies and religions and, a lot of them have come against the Jews, right? Strangely. All of a sudden they come against the Jews. The Jews have become public enemy number one. I mean, the most notable of them, of course, is Christianity. The whole essence of Christianity is to be against Judaism. Amazingly, they've gotten along, but the whole essence of it is that this is a new Bible and a new this, and everybody doesn't believe exactly like they do, especially the Jews. And all the rabbis are bad, So almost anybody that hears about Judaism somehow or other opposes it, or is jealous of it, or maybe it's the same thing. And this has been going on for thousands of years, and nevertheless, here they are. So the Jews, they even say a joke. I don't know if it's of a joke it is, or maybe it's a true story. They say that, this is the way I heard the story, that the king of, the king of Czechoslovakia, or whatever it was called then, of Prague, there was a great rabbi called Jonathan Eibeshitz. And he called this Jonathan Eibeshitz, and he said, I heard that you say that the Jews are going to be there's going to be a big war, Gog and Magog or something, and the Jews are going to be the only ones. The Jews will win. The Jews are going to win. this big battle, the whole world battle. Oh, there you go. I hear you said that the Jews, that there's going to be this whole world war, and that the Jews, and it's going to be all these nations, and the Jews are going to win. How can that possibly be? I mean, the Jews are not a warring nation. They're not, maybe the Israelis to a certain degree, but even the Israelis now are not a warring nation, right? The government ties the hands of the enemies. We depend totally on miracles. The enemies shoot rockets at us. A few years ago, they shot 4,000 rockets into Israel, 4,000 rockets. And the Israel government basically did nothing. Basically, they just tied the hands of the army so that, we just attacked, so we show them what we could mean business if we wanted to. And then, of course, the whole United Nations is against Israel. They're condemning us every other day. So even now we have an army, we're not a warring nation. How are we going to possibly win against all the nations? So this Jonas and Abishit said, I'll tell you how. Said, let's make, you people love a rooster fight, what they call them, cockfights, rooster fights. So you tell all of your barons and your dukes and everything that everybody's going to bring his rooster, and I'll bring my rooster representing the Jewish people, and we'll make a war. You'll see that I'll win. And he said, okay. So he had built this huge stadium, and in the middle of the stadium, on the ground, all the seats are sitting around, and there's a sort of a circular building, a circular what do you want to call it? The cages in a big circle. And all these cages, in each cage, all the barons and dukes and whatever it is, and they came and they brought their huge, massive roosters with razors tied to their legs, just fearsome. And the Jew, he brought his little rooster, a little tiny rooster, no razors, no nothing. So each one put his rooster in a separate cage. And someone went in the middle and said, blew a trumpet, now there's going to be a monumental rooster fight. Whichever rooster wins, that rooster, the one who that rooster represents, will get $1 million prize. Okay, good. So the whole crowd is waiting. There's thousands of people. And they give the signal, and someone pulls this lever, and all of the doors for all these cages open up. There's like a couple of seconds of silence where all these roosters sort of, realize what's going on. They look, and suddenly they jump out at each other, flapping and croaking and screaming, and there's blood and eyeballs and brain and everything flying all around the place. This goes on for 10 minutes or something. Until finally there's just this big, massive pile of quivering flesh in the middle, and one leg, sticking out occasionally, and rigor, what was it, the throes of death. This big pile of just bleeding, massive, flesh with feathers all over the place. Suddenly, from the corner comes out this little chicken, the Jewish chicken. He saw all of this, this mayhem going on. He wanted no part of it, so he just sort of hid away in the side until the whole thing finished. And he came out, pecked an eyeball over there and pecked a little something of this. So that's how we're going to win in the future. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, it's an interesting story. Whether the story actually, he really did give this example or not, and that's how really it's going to be in the future. I hope not. I hope that there won't be any wars. There doesn't have to be any wars between nations. It says that before Moshiach comes, that all the nations will be threatening each other. That's pretty much happening now. Everybody's at everybody else's throat. The England against Poland and all these weird countries you never thought would war with each other. China has everybody else, and everybody's. And all of a sudden, here's the Jews just sitting. Right, the Jews are still somehow or other surviving. And despite our terrible, terrible suicidal government here in Israel, they're just trying everything they can to, destroy Judaism and rip out any Jewish identity. The land is filled with licentiousness and with idolatry and with murder, and they're giving our enemies guns. Nevertheless, all of a sudden, it's just amazing. They shoot, like I say, they shoot missiles at us, and we came out okay. And Saddam Hussein, he shot, I remember this was, 30 years ago? How long was it? He shot these missiles at us, and it hit buildings, huge buildings fell down, and no one was hurt. No one was hurt in Israel. 39 direct hits there were in Israel. 39 direct, no matter what the papers tell you. 39 direct hits, and absolutely no one was hurt. Incredible. It was only God protecting us. Only God protecting us. And that's the way it's been for the last thousands of years. And when did it begin? Here, this is what we're reading about now. Yaakov fighting against Esav. That's what the whole battle is. Yaakov represents the Jews, and Esav represents the whole entire world. All of the population of the whole entire world. And this has been going on since then. We say how long? For 3,000 something years. Okay, so Yaakov sends, we remember what happened yesterday. So Yaakov sends to Esav these angels, these messengers, and the messengers come back and they say, listen, we offered him peace and we offered him friendship and we offered him, and the Ramban said that that's a big problem with the Jews. They're always looking for peace and they're looking for friendship, and that's why the temple was destroyed. That's what we learned that yesterday in the Chumash class. Come to the Chumash class, 3 o'clock. In any case, the angels come back and they say, it's not going to work. Esav, he just wants war. And he's really good at it. And he's coming with 400 men. And they're coming to destroy you. He's just been waiting for this moment to attack you. What are we supposed to do? So Yaakov says, listen, maybe it's not so clear that he wants war. Maybe it's just up to now he's wanted war. Maybe he's going to change his mind. And we'll see that temporarily he does. Esav does change his mind. We'll see. But that's after Yaakov fights with an angel. Yaakov has to fight all night with this angel. And then he meets up with Esav, and Esav has this sort of temporary change of heart. Okay, so in other words, what we're reading over here is trying to tell us two things. Number one, how important and essential the Jewish people are, and that the Jewish people are eternal, despite what all of our enemies say, despite all the attempts to do like Esav did and destroy us. We're eternal. But also it comes to tell us how equally important the world is, the physical world. No mention of heaven and hell. I want to stress again, in the whole 5 books of Moses, heaven and hell are not mentioned. Not because we don't believe, we certainly do believe there's heaven and hell, we certainly do believe there's the afterlife, but it is totally not important. That is not the job of Judaism, to inform us how to get into heaven. The job of Judaism is to make heaven on earth, how to make this world an eternal, meaningful, blessed, holy place. And that's what Yaakov wants to do with Esav. He does not want to defeat or destroy Esav. He wants to somehow or other transform it. Somehow or other transform it. And this again represents what Yaakov is, the Jewish people, and Esav represents the whole rest of the population of the world. Okay, so he sends the angels. Here we go. Ready? More Kabbalah. This is a Kabbalistic thing. Why? What's the idea of Kabbalah? Because Kabbalah tells you there's more going on in the world than meets the eye. And everything is connected to the creator of the universe. And Kabbalah, the ideas of Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, they point to the creator. That's the essence. They point to the creator. There's a lot of Jews that tried to make Kabbalah without the creator, without the commandments. As soon as you're talking about the creator, you're talking about the Jewish God of the Jews, you're talking about the commandments. You're talking about very, very essential. Not like Spinoza said. Spinoza was totally wrong. He said that God is just a sort of amorphous level of being or consciousness or whatever it is. his idea of God was identical to that of the Hindus. This sort of general amorphous form of, totally not really connected to the world, certainly does not care, certainly did not give any commandments. That's not the God of the Jews. That's not the creator of the universe. That's not the God who's creating us, and that's not the God who took the Jews out of Egypt. That's not the God that's enlivening the world and providing for the world. That's a philosophical thing to make money, to be popular, who knows what. But without Kabbalah, it's very difficult to, to see how God works in the world. You can believe it, it's certainly, and certainly you don't need Kabbalah in order to see this, but Kabbalah is an essential part of the Torah, the secret of the Torah. So that connects us. It starts to show us that the world you can't take the world at face value. When you realize that, then you realize you can't take Kabbalah at face value either. Kabbalah, the ideas of Kabbalah, these spiritual worlds, they're just creations, just like a rock is the creation. Okay, so here come the angels. The angels come back. The angels come back to Yaakov and they say, Banu elachicha, we've come to your brother Esav. And he's coming to meet you. Arba meos ishimo, 400 people are with him. Perish, what does it mean? Shuvas malachim. What is this answer that the angels gave? Who? She'imios, even though shemach matcha, that from your side, ru'ui v'nachon, it is proper, ma'od, very much, she'yumshach alecha, that there should be drawn down to you from this level of Esav. What did we say before this level? It's called the makif of tohu, the power which enlivens egotism in the world, the power which enlivens separateness in the world, potentially a very, very good thing, but like atomic power, that's physical. The essence source that evil gets its source from, right? The evil gets its power from. That's what's called the makif, the surrounding level of tohu. Tohu means confusion, separateness, egotism, lack of harmony. Tremendously powerful. That's what Esav was attached to. Yaakov is attached to what's called tikkun, making order. In order that you can get Yaakov, you want to unite. You want to have the power of Esav into the order that you have. Well, you're ready, because there's always found in you shleimus. Yaakov, I didn't want to say, the music is written. The music is written. Now the problem is the orchestra. The orchestra, I can't get these guys to cooperate. Everybody just wants to, play his instrument to the maximum. And the world is not going to cooperate. Esav is not going to cooperate with you. So even though you, Yaakov, you're already fixed up, right? Everything is all ready for the energy of Yaakov, for the energy of Esav. But what can I do? The problem is from Esav, your brother. He's still below, and he's all broken. And he's not yet refined, kalal at all. If so, how can you get any benefit? How can you unite his power, mishor show, from its essence, this level of makif of tohu hanal, because shehu batzmo adayin lamata, because he is still below. In other words, what's he saying over here? Yaakov wanted to make in this world to reveal all the potential. The potential in this world is tremendously, tremendously powerful. The potential in this world for life, for existence, is tremendously, tremendously powerful, and it's very easy to be misused. So let's take the example I just made up about a composer and the orchestra. You have an orchestra, all these people are like jazz, they love to play jazz. Right? Jazz, everybody takes solos all the time. You just have to have a sort of a basic framework, and then everybody just goes for it. and he wants to play something, a beautiful symphony of Mahler or what's his name, or Beethoven or something beautiful, Rachmaninoff. But you can't get the play. They got all the music is already prepared, but the performers, the musicians, they're not really willing to play the music. No one wants to hold back. No one wants to play in harmony with the other person. No one wants to. Everybody just wants to go for it, do it on their own. Like, if you ever been to a concert, right before they play the concert, the last time I was at a concert was like 50 years ago. But when you go to a concert, is before they start, everybody's all the musicians, they're warming up, and they go through the full scale. The lowest note their instrument can play, the highest note is as fast as they can play, as loud as they can play. Everybody's warming up. Well, that's what the whole world is. It's just the whole thing is just warming up. Everybody's going for themselves. That is the ideal musician, right? No, I mean, he's using his instrument to the maximum. Fast as high, low, loud. Says, yeah, but you're right. In a way, that's right. But the main thing is if he can sort of hold back and play in the orchestra, it's much more, meaningful. Everything is meaningful like that. It's like having an army and just everybody just goes out and gets, just fights the enemy. You can't do that. You have to have some sort of order, some sort of battle plan, something. You can't just have everybody just go. It works that way with everything. You have to have order. You can't just do what you want. Well, that was Esav. Esav is do what you want. Esav is you are the boss. That's Esav. And Yaakov, he was fixing up the world. He was trying to get the world ready for this energy of Yaakov. That's what the Jewish people are here for. The Jewish people, I remember Hitler said that the Jewish people crippled the world with conscience. Only the Germans are truly free. But there was a famous piece, a booklet by Wagner. It was an excellent, he said, the Jews are by their nature, they're limited. They're limited. That's why they invented the Bible. They invented this because they're limited people. That was what Spinoza said also. The Bible is just this limiting thing, and it's restraining our true ability to be free and to be brave and to be this. So Yaakov, he had fixed up the world. He had the plan for order, the Torah. Right? True, Yaakov lived before the Torah was given, but he knew the Torah before it was given. The Torah was here. He just needed the energy, the excitement, the input, the potential from the rest of the world. From the rest of the world and from the worldliness inside of the rest of the Jews. But what can he do? Yaakov got everything ready. The music is ready. The hall is rented out. And the musicians don't want to participate. They don't want any sort of order. No one's willing to restrain themselves. Baraya, what's the proof? That's Yaakov and Esav. The proof that Esav was not ready, Shu B'Shvir, that Esav is still in this what's called breaking of the vessels. Breaking means like everything is separate. Everything is separate on its own. Right? Everyone go for yourselves. Hu ki gam holek likratcha arba miot ishimo. There's 400 people with him. Perish, what is this 400 people? These are the dinim, kashim. This is what's called the severities, shel chitzonium, hamnimshachim minataf bati dinim, which come from what's called the 400 supernal judicial courts, kashim, severe judicial courts, temeshachim, which are existing. Kamosh Katuv, like it says in Idra Rabbah, in the one part of the Zohar, one book of the Zohar, Idra Rabbah. I think it's in Parshas Nosai. I don't remember. Part of the Zohar. So what's going on over here? The world is a very severe place. The world is a very cruel place. It's a very confusing place. And the reason it is that way is because God wants it to be that way. He wants it, and he wants us to fix it up. But without fixing it up, so everything is very severe and very cruel. The world is very cruel. And in some bizarre way, that's what people want, right? Just the problem, they want it, that it shouldn't be cruel to them. But they're willing that it be cruel, that it's cruel to other people. It's not their problem. right? What happens in Uganda? I have to worry. Even the United Nations, right? What happens in Africa? They care what happens in Africa, right? The Liberia is killing each other. Well, they don't care. They care one of them, right? What China does, the main thing is it's okay for them, whatever that means. So we see that there's supposed to be order, and supposed to be, and it ends up it's just selfishness and cruel selfishness also. Ukanoda, like it's known, Shorish, Shorshim Shal Daled Meos Ish, that this source of the 400 men that Esav has, that's coming to meet Yaakov and destroy him, and Nishabu min Daled Meot Shekel Kesef, this came from the 400 silver coins that Abraham gave, Avram Avinu, Olav Shalom, gave to Ephron. Remember in Parshas Chayei Sorah that Abraham is coming to bury his wife, and he gives to Ephron, the one who owns this land, he gives him 400, what's called shekel kesef, 400 silver coins to buy the land. It was a ridiculously high price, but Abraham didn't want there should be anyone would say that we got it unjustly. Everyone would agree that it belongs to Abraham, but nevertheless, he gave him a little bit too much. And he said, because of these 400 shekel that Abraham gave him. Now, Abraham was just not just a private person, just like Yaakov was not a private person. Everything he did set the tone for the whole world, like Adam, the first man. Everything he did set the tone for all of mankind. Tough Almin, these 400 shekel kesef that Abraham gave to Ephron, their source is what's called 400 worlds of pleasure. The Yarti Tzadikim that will inherit the Tzadikim, La'alma Da'ati, in the future world. The Hainu She'em Bechinas Orot Shefa Oneg. These are lights and a flow of upper pleasure, which is drawn from this level of Atika Kadisha. This is like 1,000,000 times more pleasure than is in Gan Eden, in heaven, in the lower heaven, the upper heaven. Shu Bechinas Mamutza, that all these pleasures, the upper pleasures, the intense pleasure, because life itself is pleasure. This is a creation of God, right? So it comes from this Kabalistic level, which is called Atika. Atika is what's called the inner level of God's crown. But this is only a connector between God's essence and the highest of what's called the four worlds. This is above any worlds, above the highest of the four worlds, four dimensions, what's called Atzilut. There's four dimensions of existence, Atzilut, and below that is the world of Bria. The world of Bria, that's the world of the souls. And then there's the world of Yetzirah, that's the world of the angels. And then there's this physical world, the world of Asiya, which is also divided up, a spiritual part and a physical part. But the highest of these four dimensions is Atzilut. That's already levels of worlds. This 400 units, or whatever it is, of pleasure, which come from the inner crown of God, this is above all the worlds. Like it's known that Keter, this guy, what's called God's crown, this is a connector between the emanator, God, Linne Salim, to the emanations, to the worlds. Atzilut is emanation. Umisham, from there, Nimshachol Nishba, Oneg Elyon, from there is drawn down this tremendous pleasure for the tzaddikim in the future. This is somehow or other relevant to the creation. So this is the essence pleasure, essence revelation of God. When it comes into the world, even into the highest spiritual worlds, somehow or other breaks into this level of 400 worlds of pleasure. And this is the 400 coins of silver that Abraham gave. Kesef is also kisufim, means for desire. And this is called, Abraham gave it, was called over lesocher. This is 400 shekel kesef. It says over there that it is how do you say, common currency. Common currency. Over means that it's like common, the socher to the businessman. It's acceptable currency everywhere. But this word socher also indicates this level of God's crown, because the crown is called socher. Socher means to go around. Schor means to go around and around. This is the surrounding level of God, the call Hayishtalshlut. This surrounds the highest levels of the creation. This God's crown is above the most spiritual levels of creation you could possibly imagine. This level of God's crown is above that. And that's where these 400 levels of pleasure come from. How in the world did they come to Esav? Esav at the 400 men, it came from this. That's the ultimate level of impurity. How did that come from this level of the purity and godliness from Abraham? Says these 400 worlds of pleasure, they are over the socher, they're even higher. They come and they're drawn down from the essence of God, which is even higher than this level of socher, of the crown. The ovrim, and they come, these 400 levels of God's essence, pleasure, are above God's crown, and they are drawn into God's crown. Omisham naharim the tzadikai, and from this they are shining for the tzaddikim in the future. Okay, these are all these holy things. What's this got to do with Esav? But here we go. Ready? And seen in there from that Abraham gave 400 coins for his place in the land of Israel. Marat HaMachpelah, right in Hebron. He gave this to this Ephron Achiti. This was descent. This was going down. This was like descending. Kedei, in order, Lotziam, to take them afterwards, Mimeno, from him, but Tosfos Bracha Huli. It's like the Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe said, you have to go and do Mivtzoim. He took the pupils from the yeshiva, and they were the genius pupils and the great people, and he sent them out to the lowest places of the world to make these Chabad houses and waste their time over there. And it ends up that it's not such a waste. In the end, all of a sudden, one person, his Judaism gets turned on, and another Jew realizes he's a Jew, and another Jew is a Jew, and the non-Jews are starting to realize that their religions are just a big bluff, and they're doing 7 Noahide commandments. I just heard that in Brazil, there was a priest that had a huge congregation, mega congregation, and he realized that the whole thing was a big mistake. He realized that the Christianity was just a huge lie, and he told all of his congregants, "That's it. I'm leaving. The whole thing is wrong." And I understand that he even converted. That's what people told me. But that he had 20,000 people. There's one Chabad guy that has 20,000 non-Jews that listen to his classes because they're talking about the reality, they're talking about God. He says, why did this happen? Because Abraham began by giving this power that he had, these 400 coins, which represents the power. He gave it to Ephron, who was a non-Jew. He brought it down into this world in order that from that, eventually they would be able to elevate the power of Ephron, bring out the good in him. But in meanwhile, all these 400 coins, which Abraham invested in order eventually to pull them out, and with them to pull out all the good in the world to reveal it. But until this happens with Mashiach, all of a sudden everything came down so low, and it became these 400 men of Esav. 400 is also Shin Kuf. Shin is 300 and Kuf is 100. And this is the level of sak. Sak means sackcloth. This is the level of sackcloth, because like God says in Isaiah, I'll be shamayim kederos. I will clothe the heavens with darkness. V'sak asim al kasutecha, and I will put sackcloth on your garments. Talking about the time of exile, when the Jews are going to get exiled. The Cain, also the rabbis say, Torah chogeres sak. Says when the Jews sin, it says the Torah puts on sackcloth. I know that from these 400 units of pure godly pleasure that Abraham had, and that he invested in this world in order that it would purify the world, to give the world a chance to elevate itself. But meanwhile, these 400 have been misused. That's the risk you take. They've been misused and become garments of sackcloth, that the external forces nurture from it. Right? That's all these religions that claim to be based on Judaism. They're sucking from the energy from these 400 units of godly pleasure, of pure holiness. They're sucking, how do you say, energy to misuse. But in the future, when everything is finished, when death will be swallowed up forever, like it says, it's like it says in Zechariah, that I will remove the spirit of impurity from the world. As Yachzer Ephron, then Ephron will return these 400 units of silver to their source of holiness. That's what Yaakov thought he could accomplish now. He thought that he had done enough work. If you remember, like, what is it, 34 years earlier, Yitzchak thought that he could elevate Esav by giving him a big blessing, but it was wrong. Rivka, Yitzchak's wife, knew that Esav had to be refined, had to be elevated. He had tremendous potential, but it could not be done fast. So Yaakov thought, okay, I've spent 14 years learning Torah, 20 more years by Lavan. I know about the upper worlds, I know about the lower worlds. I fixed up my part. Maybe now Esav in this 34 years has also done the same thing. But he was in for a very big disappointment. So suddenly, now, Yaakov, as soon as he saw that Esav was coming with these 400 men, he realized that it was impossible, that Esav was not going to to get along with him. He was not willing to, sometimes it slips a word from my mind, but cooperate. He wasn't willing to cooperate. Esav was not going to cooperate. And Esav was not going to give his source these 400 levels of pleasure from the world of Tohu that he wanted. Because Esav is still stuck below. All he could do was, Yaakov he had to do it himself. He thought that Esav had finished his part, but he realized Esav didn't even begin. Now Yaakov, he realized he's going to have to do the whole thing on his own. Therefore, that himself, he was going to have to draw down this level of the makif, this level of the 400 units of pleasure that Abraham invested in the world. He thought that Esav had already refined himself. He came to his senses, but it wasn't so. Now Yaakov realized he's going to have to do the whole thing himself. And therefore, now he was going to have to elevate these, what's called feminine waters. He was going to have to do the whole thing from below. Kenegdo. In order to draw down this makif, the surrounding levels. Ki ruach, I see ruach, because a spirit draws down a spirit and brings a higher spirit. It's something like people, the Uncle Joe or whatever goes to the hospital, and the doctors, the big experts say there's nothing we can do. There's that operation, we're going to die. We don't know whether he's going to die. There's nothing we can do. We really want it. You realize that the doctors are not doing their job. The doctors are not doing their job. What do you have to do? So you go to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and say, pray. Or you go to your congregation and say, pray. You go to anyone you can, say, pray. Do something. We're helpless. We thought that the doctors would help, right? That they would use their knowledge and their wisdom, and then and we see that they're not willing. They don't want to. What do we have to do? We have to pray. It's the same thing over here. Yaakov saw that Esav was not going to cooperate. What did he have to do? He had to pray. He had to do something from below to above in order to draw down, by means of this, the surrounding level, because ruach, aisi ruach b'emshech, says that when you raise your spirit, your energy, your desire in prayer above, is that God reacts, and then he even reacts even more to that. That's what it says. This is the whole idea of the mincha that Yaakov sent to Esav. This is the level of Allah's man, elevating what's called feminine waters, elevating his desire from this world, lahamshich mad, in order to draw down God's desire, masculine waters, to this level of tohu. Maybe he could pray, and Esav would get an inspiration. Because he's got these upper pleasures and these upper powers and this source of egotism and all these potentials for good. He's got it locked up. It's his. Esav, the world contains the secret of peace. The world. The Jewish people are here in order to activate the power of good and peace and order and holiness in the world. The same God that's creating us, the Jews, is creating the non-Jews. There's only one God. And God has given the power of the Jews to try to make this world a holy place. But you have to do it. The whole world has to be holy. The Jews, of course, they're outnumbered. What is it? 500 to 1, where it was 1,000 to 1. So they have to somehow or other arouse the non-Jews. That's what Yaakov is trying to do to Esav. He's trying to arouse him that he should also do his job. Lochach, therefore, shalach kamalim. Therefore, he sent, we're going to see, come to the class. As soon as Yaakov heard that Esav was not ready, so what did he do? He sent them presents. He sent them camels. Even though that they're not pure animals, you couldn't offer them up on the temple, because regarding this level of Or Makif, the surrounding level, is darkness is like light. Like we're going to explain what says Vayikach min abo biyado mincha. We're going to explain what it says soon, but God willing tomorrow, that Yaakov sent to Esav a present. Why did he send the present that he sent? God willing, we'll see tomorrow. Where is this here? Vayikach biyado. Okay, well, no. It's here. We'll try to do this tomorrow. God willing. Have a good day with Moshiach Now. Oh, no. We're going to learn now the Dvar Malchut of today.